Welcome back. This next training is intended to provide guidance to New York State VFC providers on monitoring vaccine storage temperatures, reporting temperature excursions, and vaccine transport. Let's start with some basic definitions. The minimum or min temperature is the coldest temperature inside the storage unit that was recorded over a certain period of time. The maximum or max temperature is the warmest temperature inside the storage unit that was also recorded over a certain period of time. For VFC purposes, we're looking for the min and the max for the previous 24 hours, but min-max temps should also be checked and recorded after other longer office closures such as holidays and weekends. A temperature excursion is any temperature outside of the recommended range found in the vaccine package insert for any duration of time. Min-max temperature readings on digital data loggers can detect temperature excursions that occur after hours and on weekends. Some temperature monitoring devices will clear the min and max temperatures automatically after you check them, while others require a manual clearing process. Refer to the DDL product manual or consult the vendor for instructions that are specific to your device. Minimum and maximum values are actual temperatures measured in your vaccine storage unit. Therefore, they should read within acceptable temperature ranges. If either the min or max temperature is not within the acceptable temperature range, an excursion has occurred and must be reported to the VFC program on the day that it is discovered. As discussed in previous trainings in this series, all New York State vaccine providers must use a calibrated continuous temperature monitoring device known as a digital data logger or DDL, and each storage unit housing publicly funded vaccine must have its own DDL. CDC's Vaccine Storage and Handling Toolkit outlines VFC program requirements for DDLs. Currently, New York State VFC program provides one freezer and one refrigerator fridge tag 2L data logger to each enrolled VFC provider approximately once every 2 years, and as contract funding allows. The New York State VFC program does not require this device to be used, and providers may choose to use this as a backup DDL if using another brand as the primary device. A quick reference guide to the daily temperature monitoring procedure is linked on this slide, as well as the resource document included with this training. It is a best practice to check the temperature on the DDL display each time vaccines are accessed in the storage unit. Review storage unit temperature readings from downloaded data logger reports weekly for changes in temperature trends that may require action. VFC providers are required to check the min and max temperatures in the storage units for the prior 24 hours when the office first opens for the day. Temperatures should be recorded to the 10th of a degree, for example 36.4 degrees Fahrenheit versus 36 degrees. Temperatures must be recorded on a temp log, either paper or electronic, that includes the daily min-max, date, time, initials, or the name of the person checking the temperature. Downloading DDL temperatures may never be used to replace daily manual review and recording of temperatures. If temperatures are not checked regularly, and excursions that do or do not trigger an alarm or X on the DDL display are missed, this can lead to administration of non-viable vaccines which will require re-immunizations. It's important to note that cumulative out-of-range temperatures can impact vaccine viability, even if the alarm is never triggered. It is required that DDL data be downloaded at a minimum every 2 weeks, preferably weekly, and anytime that there is an out-of-range temperature on your digital data logger. Review the DDL download report for any possible missed excursions and temperature fluctuation trends. The downloaded reports must be stored in an electronic or paper folder and maintained for a minimum of 3 years as required by the CDC. The reports must be made available upon request. If you are using the New York State supplied fridge tag 2L, it is recommended that you create a folder to save your DDL downloads prior to the first time you use the download function. The next section of this training, we will review out-of-range vaccine storage temperatures, known as temperature excursions. The New York State Vaccines for Children program defines a temperature excursion as any out-of-range temperature, regardless of duration or reason, with or without the alarm or X on the digital data logger being triggered. Some reasons for temperature excursions can be leaving the door open too long while conducting vaccine inventory, leaving the door inadvertently open, a power outage, or a storage unit failure. Whether within your control or not, and regardless of duration, 1 minute or several hours, every excursion must be reported on the day that it is discovered. The grid on this slide shows the appropriate vaccine storage temperatures by storage unit type. While this is helpful, always refer to the vaccine package insert, as some vaccines may have more restrictive storage ranges. While not every excursion affects vaccine viability, it is not only required, but critical that all excursions be reported to the New York State VFC program the same day they are identified, as the cumulative time out of range must be considered. Multiple seemingly small excursions over the course of time can add up to the maximum time for which certain vaccines are considered viable. The New York State VFC program maintains records of reported temperature excursions and can add up cumulative out-of-range times for vaccine lots based on the date the order was received and the dates of the excursions. Continued use of vaccines exposed to out-of-range temperatures can result in patients needing to be recalled and re-immunizations offered due to having received improperly stored vaccines. Please also note that there can be out-of-range temperatures without an alarm or X on the digital data logger ever being triggered. Most data loggers are not set to alarm until a certain time outside of the appropriate temperature range. This is why it is so important to correctly review and record the min-max temperatures daily. Catching these out-of-range temperatures as soon as possible is critical. Other types of excursions include vaccines left out of the storage unit, refrigerated vaccines accidentally stored in the freezer, and vice versa, and shipping excursions where the vaccine shipment is received and the temperature in the shipping container is not in range. Regardless of the type of excursion, the vaccine must not be used unless it is determined viable after reporting the excursion to the New York State VFC program. This slide shows Part 1 of the temperature excursion report form. If you have an excursion, immediately cease vaccinating and fill out Part 1 on the day the excursion is identified. Next, download DDL files for each storage unit that had an excursion. You must compile 3 months of DDL data for each impacted unit. Submit Part 1 together with your downloaded digital data logger files to vaccine-temp-excursion@health.ny.gov. In many cases, our vaccine excursion team can assess vaccine viability. But depending on the excursion, the New York State VFC program may determine that you need to contact the vaccine manufacturers and submit Part 2 of the report. The New York State VFC program staff reviews the downloaded data logger files and summarizes for each impacted storage unit on page 2 of the excursion report. The information on this page must be referred to if it is determined that the vaccine manufacturers need to be contacted. If directed to do so by the New York State VFC program, contact the vaccine manufacturer for each vaccine impacted by the excursion. Follow the provided instructions to know how to prepare and place the call to the vaccine manufacturers. Document information requested on Part 2 and submit the completed temperature excursion report to the New York State VFC program by email or fax. In summary, cease vaccination immediately when an excursion is identified. An excursion must be reported on the same day it is identified. Part 1 of the excursion report and the digital data logger download is submitted to vaccine-temp-excursion@health.ny.gov. The VFC program staff will respond regarding vaccine viability, or will notify you that the manufacturers must be contacted. If the vaccine is determined to be viable by New York State VFC program staff, you may resume vaccinating right away. If the manufacturers need to be contacted, do not resume vaccination until viability has been determined by the manufacturer. Temperature excursions can occur for a variety of reasons. Here are some possible causes followed by preventative best practices that can be used to reduce the likelihood of a temperature excursion. One possible cause is faulty or inappropriate storage unit equipment. To prevent this from happening, use standalone refrigerators and freezers only, as required by the VFC program, and be sure to regularly maintain vaccine storage units. Another cause of a temperature excursion could be an overstocked or overpacked storage unit. To prevent this from happening, make sure that your unit has enough space to store the year's largest inventory, considering back-to-school and flu season. If a vaccine storage unit was accidentally unplugged, this could cause a temperature excursion. Place signs near the outlets where the units are plugged in and on any linked circuit breakers. Use plug guards, and be sure to educate staff about not disconnecting power to the units, including maintenance and custodial staff. To prevent a storage unit thermostat from being incorrectly set, allow only designated staff such as the primary or backup vaccine coordinator to adjust the thermostat. Some storage units come equipped with set point security, in which a key is required to change the thermostat. Opening a storage unit door too often or leaving it open could cause temperature excursions. To prevent this from happening, only open storage unit doors when necessary, and put a reminder to keep the storage unit door closed on the unit. Some storage units come equipped with door ajar alarms or self-closing doors. If your practice has frequent issues with the door being left open and a large vaccine supply, having a storage unit with one of these features may be a worthy investment. Also be aware that seasonal temperature variation can inadvertently cause vaccine temperature excursions. Check that the room temperature in your practice is appropriate and adjust the room thermostat as needed. And finally, although there's nothing that can be done to prevent power outages or natural disasters, in order to prevent a loss of vaccine during a power outage, having an emergency plan with written procedures that is accessible to all staff is key. Some continuous temperature monitoring devices come equipped with alarms that will contact staff after hours in the event that an outage or excursion is identified. For short-term power outages that you anticipate that will last less than 2 hours, do not open storage unit doors. Depending on the room temperature, storage unit temperatures can often be maintained with water bottles in the refrigerator and frozen water bottles in the freezer. You'll need to monitor the temperatures regularly during the outage. As soon as possible, start recording and monitoring both the room temperature and internal temperature of the storage units. You should also record minimum and maximum temperatures reached during the power outage. For longer-term power outages lasting more than 2 hours or power outages of uncertain duration, activate your practice's vaccine emergency plan. Above all, do not allow vaccines to remain in a non-functioning unit for an extended period of time. Ensuring your power supply is safeguarded is a best practice to prevent temperature excursions. All vaccine storage units should be plugged directly into the wall. If possible, plug only one unit into each outlet and consider using a plug guard or safety lock plug. Label all outlets and circuit breakers with warning signs discouraging a disconnect of power. This slide shows an example of a sticker placed on an outlet used by an active vaccine storage unit. Consider installing a temperature alarm to alert you to temperature excursions quickly and during off hours. Use water bottles in the refrigerator and frozen water bottles in the freezer to help ballast temperatures during power outages. Perform a daily inspection of storage units, including checking the door seals and the current storage capacity. As a best practice, educate all staff, including maintenance and custodial staff who may work on weekends or off hours, about never disconnecting the power to vaccine storage units. Remember to post warning signs that include contact information so that staff will know who to call in the event of an emergency. In terms of your power supply, it's important not to plug storage units into a multi-outlet power strips, also known as surge protectors, power outlets with built-in circuit switches or ground fault circuit interrupters or GFCIs, which generally have a reset button, or into power outlets that can be activated by a wall switch. This section of the training will review proper protocols and procedures for transport of publicly funded vaccines. Vaccine transport should be limited, as every move puts the cold chain at risk. Do not transport vaccine that was previously exposed to a temperature excursion unless the storage unit has completely failed. It's critical to have an up-to-date vaccine emergency plan with steps to take to protect your vaccine. In any emergency event, activate your plan immediately. Vaccines should only be transported in situations such as emergencies due to power outages or in the event vaccine storage units malfunction and the provider does not have another suitable unit on site. If the office relocates to a new address and the New York State VFC program has been notified, and for local health departments and approved mobile clinics only, who hold off-site clinics. In this case, the local health department or approved mobile provider brings only the minimum number of doses they expect to use at the clinics to avoid unnecessary transport of additional vaccines. Always include a data logger with a current calibration certificate during transport and inside of each temporary storage unit. Prevent vaccine from drops, shocks, and vibration. Secure the transport container in the vehicle. If transporting individual vials or partial trays, use dunnage or padding material such as bubble wrap to hold the vials in place. Ensure the vaccine cold chain is maintained at all times. To the extent possible, avoid leaving transport containers in direct sunlight, leaving transport containers unattended, or opening transport containers. If using a personal or company vehicle, bring the vehicle to a comfortable temperature before placing the transport container inside. Never place the vaccine transport container in the trunk. Plan your route to minimize the transport time. In general, the transport time, or the transport time plus the clinic workday, for local health departments and approved mobile clinics only, should be 8 hours maximum. Each vaccine transport container must be monitored with a DDL that is designed for appropriate temperature range, refrigerated, frozen, or ultra-cold, has a logging interval that can be programmed to measure and record temperatures at least every 30 minutes, allows for the download of complete temperature data via computer software or an online interface, has a current and valid certificate of calibration to the uncertainty of plus or minus 0.5 degrees Celsius or plus or minus 1 degree Fahrenheit, and a detachable buffered probe, if appropriate, which more closely reflects actual vaccine temperatures. Condition the buffered probe in the storage units prior to transport. This may take a few hours. It's a good idea to keep the buffered probes to your backup DDLs in the refrigerator and freezer so that they are conditioned and ready to use in the event of an emergency. When packing a DDL for vaccine transport, place the buffered probe as close as possible to the vaccines in the transport container. Do not place the probe directly next to ice packs or other coolants, and attach the temperature display to the outer lid of the transport container. Portable units are specifically designed for vaccine transport. They maintain temperatures via a power source and can be plugged into a regular outlet in the office and into a vehicle's auxiliary outlet to maintain proper vaccine temperatures during transport. The pros of this type of unit are pack-out, or cooling or insulating materials, are not required. Some units are qualified to maintain temperatures for a set amount of time if the power is lost. Potential cons are that some units are very heavy and therefore very difficult to lift or move. Be sure to check the manufacturer documentation for details on the weight and packing usage. Another option for emergency vaccine transport are qualified containers and packouts. These units are non-powered and specifically designed for vaccine transport. They require insulating materials and can maintain temperatures for a set amount of time. Check manufacturer documentation for any usage or packing instructions specific to the unit model. While the previous options discussed may be used for emergency and non-emergency transport, the following can be used for emergency transport only. They are non-powered units including styrofoam coolers, hard-sided insulated coolers, or as a last resort, the manufacturer's original shipping containers. The walls must be at least 2 inches thick. Never use soft-sided food or beverage coolers. Pack-out is required. CDC conditioned water bottle transport system is recommended. Include insulating material. Never use frozen gel packs or coolant packs from the original vaccine shipments, as this can freeze and damage refrigerated vaccines. And never use dry ice for standard frozen transport. See the link in this slide for CDC's Emergency Vaccine Transport Guide. This can also be found in the resources document included with this training. The CDC water bottle transport system is recommended for use with the previously mentioned styrofoam and hard-sided cooler options. Materials required for the system include enough conditioned frozen water bottles for 2 layers inside the transport cooler, conditioned water bottles for refrigerated transport, frozen water bottles for frozen transport, 16.9-ounce water bottles for medium to large coolers, and 8-ounce water bottles for small coolers. You will also need enough conditioned insulating materials for 2 layers inside the cooler. Use bubble wrap, packing foam, or styrofoam sheets for a layer above and below vaccines at least 1 inch thick. Do not use loose materials such as packing peanuts. You'll also need enough corrugated cardboard for 2 layers inside the cooler. Use 2 pieces of corrugated cardboard to fit the interior dimensions of the cooler to be placed in between insulating cushioning material and conditioned frozen water bottles. Please note that conditioned water bottles start off as frozen water bottles, which are conditioned by placing them in a sink of lukewarm water until you see a layer of water forming near the surface of the bottle. If the office is moving to a new address, the New York State VFC program must be notified in advance of the transport. For emergency transports, prior approval is not required. After transport is complete, providers must complete the vaccine transport tracking sheet to track transport of New York State VFC vaccine. Submit the completed sheet via email or fax to the New York State VFC program. If an excursion occurs during transport, a temperature excursion form must also be submitted. For local health departments transporting to off-site clinics and approved mobile clinics, a paper temperature log must be used throughout the clinic to document temperatures about once per hour. Copies of all documentation must be maintained for a minimum of 3 years. Thank you for your participation in this training on monitoring vaccine storage temperatures, reporting excursions, and vaccine transport. As always, Any questions can be sent to nyvfc@health.ny.gov.